Hello everybody, this is Rachel taking a look at the Maria Thus Biodynamic Calendar for November 2022. It's been unseasonably warm this autumn. I've got all sorts of things germinating and growing that I wouldn't expect to still have, and I don't know about you, but we've had infestations of whitefly and lots and lots of flies, I presume all hatching because it's still so warm during the day and no frosts at night so far. So because it's been so warm, I've been sneaking in some sowings that I might not ordinarily do. So when we come to the calendar, the first thing we look for is the new moon, full moon. Now that's under this solar and lunar events section, and here is the full moon in this circle here. And over the page is the new moon. Now, we've got a lunar eclipse this full moon, and as a result you can see that there's a grey area here. This means it's not a beneficial time to be working with the soil and the plants. Now, the week before the full moon is a good time to be sowing seeds. Now, there's not a lot of seeds to be sowing now. If you haven't already got your overwinter peas and beans in, you could still get away with it, I think. And you would do that on a flower day or a fruit day before the full moon. And you could be also sowing sweet peas here in this flower day here. And I've been doing sneaky sowings of things like rocket, which are still germinating really well in this heat. Wonderful crops for winter, like winter purslane, some late sowing spinach, like early prickly. Those kind of seeds are still wonderful to sow now at the very beginning of November. And you can also be sowing winter greens in the polytunnel as well. So as winter draws near, there's a real urge to tidy up the garden, but it's really important to remember that our beneficial insects need places to overwinter. So if you can leave seed heads and grasses and areas for that to happen, that's absolutely wonderful. Now, if you look at the calendar here, we can use these days that are marked by different colours to tend our garden. And I love this time of year. I feel like I'm getting back on top of things after the madness of summer. So on a root day here, you could be looking at tending your roots. So you might want to be ridging up your carrots that are still left in, maybe hoeing and weeding between overwinter onions and shallots, and looking after your parsnips. On the flower day, you could be tidying up your borders, and on the leaf days, I like to hoe through all my winter greens and really make sure that they're well weeded. You can also use flower days for cutting back and tying in things like roses and flowering climbers. Now, the next thing we look at when we come to the calendar is denoted by this AG here and this PG here. And this is Perigee and AG is Apogee. And Perigee is when the moon is closest to the earth, and that has a very watery influence on growth, and so it's always marked as a grey band in the calendar, and that means there's no beneficial forces to be working with on that day, and it's best to go and do something else. Now, another rhythm to look at is this band of pink here and a band of green, which goes into the next month, the next 2 weeks. Now, this is northern transplanting time, denoted by the green band, and southern transplanting time, denoted by the pink band. And that's a 2-week rhythm. So every 2 weeks you'll have a southern transplanting time where the moon is ascending in the sky, and a northern transplanting time where the moon is descending in the sky. And we work strongly with the northern transplanting time in the northern hemisphere. So the northern transplanting time, as the moon is descending in the sky, is a time for working with the soil and the earth. It's a real rooting influence. So a great time for planting your bulbs. So if you want to get your tulip bulbs in and your narcissi, any of your bulbs for coming up in spring, then flower days in the northern transplanting time is a fantastic time to do that. And on leaf days you can be transplanting shrubs and hedging plants. And if you've got fruit bushes to start transplanting, bare root fruit bushes, you can start doing that in northern transplanting time on fruit days. And it's really beneficial when you're doing that to do a spray of horn manure in the afternoon after you've transplanted those plants. And they will also benefit from barrel prep or cowpat pit, which you can also buy from the Biodynamic Association, and that you can either water into the planting hole, or you can sprinkle it in, or you can make a root dip with clay. And you can find more information about that on the Biodynamic Association website. Now in the second half of the month you could also be pruning grapevines, and if you are still thinking about storing vegetables or fruit, then you would harvest on the particular day for the plant that you're harvesting. So if you want to store root vegetables, then you will harvest them on root days. And if you want to store your apples or pears, then you would do that on a fruit day. Now there's another collection of grey days here, and if you look at these symbols here, they're a little bit like an upturn, like a U with little circles on the top. These are nodes. Now nodes are points where the moon's path crosses the ecliptic, the sun's path, and those, when that happens twice a month, and those points are quite disruptive in terms of the forces being laid down to earth, and so those times, those node points, will always be grey days in the calendar where it's not a beneficial time to be working with plants and the soil. And just to clarify that when a full moon occurs at the time of a node, then you will have a lunar eclipse. And if the new moon was occurring at the time of a node, so if this new moon was occurring at this point here, when the moon crosses the ecliptic, then we would have a solar eclipse. And I almost forgot, if you haven't already got your overwinter garlic in, then you want to be using the northern transplanting time here, and a root day would be the optimum time to do that. Okay. So I hope that's been helpful, and I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to some frosts soon, I hope. And let's not get caught out. Keep your fleece on hand for covering up tender plants, and have a great November. Bye bye.